What's going on, guys? Nathan here. Today we're going to talk about the 5 basic poker strategies that every beginner should know. If you are new to the game of poker, these are the 5 bread and butter techniques that I've used throughout my entire professional poker career, and I think that some of these will help you out as well. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. Counting down from 5 to 1. Here we go. Basic poker strategy number 5 is do not force it. All right, so guys, let me give you some simple math right off the start here. When you go see the flop in poker, you're probably familiar with that. Those are the 3 community cards that the dealer puts on the table. You are going to miss that flop roughly 2 out of 3 times with a random hand. So most of the time in poker, you're not going to have anything. And in an example like we're going to discuss in a second here, sometimes you're going to miss the flop very, very badly, and you're going to be up against the kind of player who's not going to fold. And that's why you don't want to force it in a situation like this. So let's jump into the example here. You've got king, queen offsuit, king of hearts, and queen of spades, and a fish calls you before the flop. Now guys, this is crucial to the hand. A fish is a recreational poker player who just plays the game for fun. They're not watching videos like this. They don't take the game seriously like you do. They play all sorts of trashy hands. Yes, they're the ones that are going to give you the bad beats. They chase every draw. They call you down with bottom pair. You've probably played against these players yourself. So when the flop comes down with the 8 of diamonds, 6 of clubs, and 5 of diamonds, guys, this is the flop and the player type who we do not expect to ever fold on this board, and that is why the best play here, I know it's not the sexy fun answer everyone wants, is to simply just check and give up. Guys, a massive part of winning at poker is being disciplined and being able to simply give up sometimes and recognize when it's not worth it. On a flop like this, there are so many different pair possibilities, 2-pair possibilities, draw possibilities. They could have a hand like 7-8. They could have a diamond draw if they've got any 2 diamonds in their hand, if they've got a 6, if they've got a 5. Guys, even if they've just got a hand like ace 7, they're not folding. That hand has an open-ended straight draw on this board. Guys, the bottom line is do not force the proverbial square peg through the round hole in situations like this. Against the recreational poker players, when you miss the flop terribly like this, the best thing that you can possibly do is just check, and if they make a big bet, fold your hands. And by the way, we're going to talk about what to do when we actually have something coming up later in the video, but let's move on to basic strategy number 4 for beginners right now. Let's move back to the pre-flop section of the game now, and let's talk about abusing the button. Now I'm going to put the image of the poker table on your screen right now for some of you beginners so you know what I'm talking about. The button is the seat with the dealer chip in front of it. You're probably familiar with that, and that is the best seat at the poker table because you get to act last on the flop, turn, and river, which is a massively proven statistical advantage. You get to see what they do first, which gives you all of the advantages in the hand. So what is the best logical thing for us to do here? It is to absolutely abuse the crap out of the button when we are in that seat. So when I get to act last, I'm going to be playing all sorts of what I call speculative hands. These are going to be hands like 10-8 of hearts, king 9 of diamonds, queen 10 offsuit, ace 4 offsuit, 7-9 of spades. You know I love that hand. 4-6 of clubs, jack 8 of diamonds. Guys, basically any 2 cards that are remotely close together. If they're suited, that's awesome because that allows us to make a flush. Guys, you want to be raising these hands up consistently on the button, and if people have limped into the pot, by the way, if people have just called the blind, I'm still going to be raising. Guys, bottom line, if you are new to the game of poker, understand that this game is all about position, position, position. When you are seated at the best seat, the most profitable seat at the table, the button, make sure that you are taking charge, that you are playing any remotely playable hands and putting your foot down and taking charge. This was a huge key to my success early on in my career. All right, guys, let's move on to basic strategy number 3 for beginners, and that is to use the good old stop and go with top pair. So as promised, we're going to talk about what to do when you actually hit the flop now, and this is a strategy that I have used versus decent poker players for many, many years, and it is still wildly successful to this day. So you've got a hand like ace jack offsuit. We know we're going to be playing a hand like this. Ace of hearts, jack of spades. Flop comes down with a jack of hearts, 8 of clubs, and 7 of diamonds. So you make a bet, they call. Pretty standard stuff. I've discussed this in many videos before, but just to reiterate here, guys, you always want to be making a bet here. Do not screw around. Don't slow play just because you saw some famous poker player check here with their top pair in a $1 million cash game. Chances are you're not playing in a $1 million cash game yourself. You're playing against other beginner level poker players just keep things simple and make a bet here when you have almost certainly the best hand. So they call, turn comes down with the 6 of hearts. So you check here. Now, why do we do that, guys? Because in a situation like this, again, assuming we're against a decent player here, a thinking opponent, they take the game seriously like you do, they're watching videos like this, they're not going to call you down here, guys, with a hand like pocket nines, with a worse jack, like a jack 10, for example. They're going to fold those hands. That's what good poker players do. We already talked about a little bit of that discipline off the top. Good poker players are able to make the fold here. If I was up against a recreational poker player, I would definitely be betting again here, but versus a good player, you want to go for this stop and go. What this is going to do here on the turn is it's going to get it in their head that you don't have anything, that you're just screwing around. This is something that I call deception value, and I talked about this at length in my third book, the Micro Stakes Playbook, is that when you check here on the turn, they're not going to give you credit on the river, and you're going to be able to cash in that value on the river. So the river comes down with the 2 of clubs, totally harmless card, doesn't complete any draws. Guys, you should now make a big bet. I would suggest betting 80% of the pot here. So say the pot's $10, you bet $8 here, because once again, guys, when you check on the turn there, they're not going to believe that you have anything. Now you're going to get the calls from the hands like pocket nines or a jack 10. This is how you get the maximum value against good players. Once again, if you're up against a recreational player here, you just want to go bet, bet, bet. There's no point in doing anything else because we know they're going to call you down with all sorts of trashy hands. But if you're up against a good player, try this stop and go technique, bet the flop, check the turn, and then bet big on the river. All right, guys, let's move on to basic strategy number 2 that all beginners need to know, and that is to punish the limpers. So let's go back to pre-flop again now. So you look down at ace, queen offsuit, ace of spades, and queen of diamonds. You're on the button. We already talked about that. The best seat ever created in No Limit Texas Hold'em, and there are 3 limpers. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, a limper in poker is somebody who just calls the blind pre-flop. So if you're playing in a $1, $2 cash game, for example, that would be somebody who just calls the $2 blind. I don't recommend doing this. I recommend taking charge always when you're entering a hand of poker, and that's what we're going to do right now, actually. So I would recommend raising it up to a minimum of 7 times the big blind here. So the big blind in a $1, $2 game is $2. So that would be $14, of course. And the reason I do this, guys, is because I typically raise to 3 or 4 times the blind as a default strategy in these games. And then I add 1 big blind per limper. So there's 3 limpers here. So that's where I get this number from. And I want to be clear, guys, if you're playing in a super loose, low stakes game, especially like a home game on a Friday night with your friends or something, everyone's having some drinks and no one's folding anything, guys, you don't want the whole table to call you here. Make it 10 times the blind, make it 15 times the blind. If nobody's folding, you need to figure out the amount that works best for you in your poker game. As I always suggest, you want to aim for 1 color, so you need to find the amount that is going to accomplish that for you. But guys, bottom line, let the whole table know there is no way they're going to limp your button. When you're on the button, you are in control of the hand. They are going to be guests in your pot. You're in the driver's seat. Make a big raise, take control, and I think you're going to have a lot more success. All right, guys, let's move on to my basic poker strategy number 1 that all beginners need to know, and we already alluded to this one. That is getting 3 streets of value versus the fish. Guys, you never want to leave money on the table versus the weaker players when you have the best hands. So let's go into our ace jack example once again. You raise up ace jack, offsuit, ace of hearts, jack of clubs, and a rec player. One of our fishy friends calls us. So what do we know about these players? They play 50% at least of all their hands. They chase every draw. They'll call you down with bottom pair. Heck, sometimes, guys, they will just call you down with king high for no reason at all. So flop comes down with a jack 8-5. You bet, they call. Super standard stuff. Once again, guys, don't get tricky. When you got top pair, top kicker versus the bad players, just make a big bet here. They call. Turn comes down with a 3 of hearts. Once again, guys, no screwing around here. You make a bet. Make a big bet here. They call once again. River comes down with the king of hearts. What should you do here? Well, a lot of people get gun shy. They look at the king and they go, oh my, they must have hit that king. Guys, you need to remember that is a very small percentage of their range. Most of the time here, they're hanging on with a hand like 8-9, for example, or maybe ace-5 or pocket 10s, and they just don't believe you. Guys, fish are going to call you down the entire way with hands like this. They've always got conspiracy theories going through their head. They never believe you. So you want to just just do the most obvious thing of all at the poker table and just make another big bet here, guys. Always get 3 streets of value versus the fish. Bet the flop, turn, and river when you've got a strong pair, and I think you're going to have a lot more success. All right, guys, like and subscribe if you found this video helpful, and if you want to know my entire strategy to absolutely smash these small and mid-stakes games, make sure you grab a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. That will be the top link in the description below. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I will catch you next time.